was a skinny little kid, to be honest, growing up. In the last year of school, for like PE lessons, and they gave me the option to stay in school or go to the local gym. But I actually went to like a proper bodybuilding gym, and that's where I probably learned the most. A few of the guys in the gym, and they said, you know, you should try doing a show. And at first I thought no chance, and then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, why not? Sitting there and trying to talk to them about it and tell them that this is what I want to do, and just couldn't get their head around it. But once they see me winning a few shows, especially some big shows, they kind of realise, oh, actually maybe he's decent at this or good at this. NEC body power. So that was the qualifier that I did, and then competed in the finals and won my category for that one. And I was just like, so shocked when they announced my name as the overall winner. 2 people that won a pro card that day, and they gave me one of the total shock. The world finals were in October. I flew out to China, competed there on a Tuesday morning. Tuesday night, I got the flight back. I landed on Wednesday night. Sunday, competed at the world finals. Yeah, okay, I'm first. I won that one. Yeah. What are you competing for? Because genetically, you're not made for bodybuilding. What are you doing, wasting time? And that really fucking pissed me off.
Welcome back to the KultureKast podcast. My guest today is a PCA professional bodybuilder, having won the 2018 Worlds in the under 202 pound category. Welcome, Randeep Lotay. How are you doing, brother?
Yeah, good, thank you. Good. How you doing? You all right?
Good. As you can see on your t-shirt, Monster Factory, and so we'll get cracking on in how you became the monster. But obviously, as a youngin, what was your background like? What was your cultural background like? What was baby Randeep like?
I was a youngest in my family, so just a normal kid, to be honest. Growing up, you know, like sports, like cars and stuff. I was a skinny little kid, to be honest, growing up. Yeah, you know, just pretty average, to be honest. I wasn't very athletic. I wasn't very sporting. But I started to just get out on my bike and just explore, you know.
It seems to be like one of two ways in it for most of the fitness people that I've spoken to. It's either the fat kid going into the gym to lose a bit of weight and then gets addicted, or the skinny kid who wants to put on size. And obviously I think you fall into the latter then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I went to like an all-boys school in secondary school, and I was the only kid in the school that had his scarce. You know, there was Indian kids in the school, but I was the only one that had like a little bit and stuff. And you know, I'll be honest, the kids did try and pick on me and stuff. They did pick on me, especially being little and skinny and stuff. So maybe that was a factor of why I wanted to hit the gym more and to start working out or exercising. But yeah, you know, it's just one of those things. So, like, I remember from school days, in the last year of school, for like PE lessons, that was a Friday afternoon. And they gave me the option to say we can either like stay in school, go bowling, play football, or go to the local gym. And I was like, well, I'll just go to the local gym to get me out of school. And I just started going from there.
I would have chose bowling, to be fair. It sounds a lot more fun.
It was too far from school, so I couldn't be bothered traveling.
Oh, fair enough. No, it happens to a lot of young kids. Like a similar sort of situation to myself, with had the gutti and sort of was picked on because of it, and then you either go two ways, don't you? Either like it damages your confidence, which it did for me, and then I think it was probably like in middle school, so what are you, like 10, 11, 12, around that age? Yeah. And then when I got to around the 16 age, it was the gym to lose a bit of weight at the same time and obviously build back that confidence. You mentioned other sports there as well, so obviously the gym wasn't the first passion. What other sports were you into before then?
So like, again, as a kid, I played football a bit, but didn't really enjoy it, just more the social thing. Played badminton, tennis, and just got on the bike a lot when I was young as well. So in those days, you could get on the bike and drive around, you know, like ride around somewhere in your area and not be worried about where your child's going on their own.
Yeah.
It's a different time back then, wasn't it? So yeah, I was on my bike a lot.
It is weird because you think that everything's progressing as time moves on, but things like that are actually regressing. Do you know what I mean? Like safety concerns and things, which is a bit mad. And obviously you spoke about like the troubles with gays and stuff there, and being the only turban kid in the school. How bad was it? Because obviously Birmingham, when I think of it, is more of a cultural hub to more than like Newcastle, where I'm based. So being the only Indian kid with a turban on, I would have thought, obviously, as you said, there's more Indian kids in the schools, probably more awareness of it. Do you think it's specifically because of the gutti, or do you think it's because they're just going to pick on something and that's the thing that I identify?
Yeah, I think the latter. Yeah, I think it's an easy target, easy for someone to pick on, especially when the person, that child might be in the earlier years, might be small, skinny. It's just an easy target for a bully to try and show off to his mates or something like that, isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong, it wasn't horrendous, it wasn't like really, really bad, but it was enough to, piss me off.
Yeah. The little jibes. No, I completely understand. It is a funny one. I've had that question to a few of the guests now, because you can't excuse bullying regardless, and you can't excuse like racism regardless, but there does seem to be a thing where the two obviously get blurred, and it's like it is that thing where people will just pick on something, but because obviously we are a bit different in that sense, that is the focal point. Like,
yeah.
If you have glasses, you get picked on for glasses. If you're a bit overweight, then you get picked on for overweight. Unfortunately, I had all three, so it wasn't the best. But it's a weird thing where, yeah, I think it is getting better. Obviously, there's more understanding in schools, are teaching things about cultural diversity and things. But hopefully, we do see a decrease. But I don't think you can ever, like, kids will be kids is always the saying.
Yeah,
That
precisely.
everybody says.
Yeah, exactly.
So around that high school age, I'm guessing 14, 15, 16 is probably when you're starting to get into the gym, going in on the Fridays and things.
Yeah.
Did you have a friendship group that you went with, or did you have any older role models who were already enthralled in fitness that could teach you, or was it you went in and just messed about and picked up what you could?
A bit of both, to be honest. I mean, I went it was mainly either on my own or just one of my friends from school back in school days. And then once school finished and I started college, I would just go in with either one or two of my friends again, just not really knowing what we're doing. I had a cousin that used to go. He was a couple of years older than me, so I used to join him every now and then to show me, how to use some of the machines and correcting my form a little bit. But he wasn't by no means massively into training. He was, as in like athlete-wise, he was just really, fit and into his exercise. And yeah, then like throughout college, even throughout university as well, I used to go sporadically. I wasn't like massively dedicated. I got as much as I could during that week. But I think I really started upping my time in the gym once I graduated from university and started working. Because then, like in the evenings after work, I wouldn't necessarily have much to do, right? Like before, I'd have either assignments to do or coursework or exams to prep for, whatever.
Social life.
Yeah, well, yeah, that as well. So yes, once I finished uni and started working, and a bit more of a routine, a bit more set free times and stuff, that's when I really started hitting it a bit more.
I don't know how to word this without sounding slightly disrespectful, but obviously there's probably a bit of an age gap between us. I'm not going to say too much about how much the age gap might be, but obviously what sort of resources did you use to learn? Obviously you said that you had a few individuals that helped you slightly, but like when I started the gym, I had an older friend who's already been in the gym, and YouTube was the biggest thing that I learned from. Was just like by that point there was quite a lot of fitness influences in say like 2012, 2013-ish. When you're trying to learn as much as you could, and when you were starting to take it a bit more seriously, what resources were you able to use to like obviously grow your not just training knowledge, but obviously I'm guessing nutritional knowledge as well?
Yeah, so I would research as much as I could. I mean, I did have internet back in my day.
I wasn't trying to say not, but it was more the influencer sort of style content came a bit later, and then it was a bit more public for more easily accessible. Whereas I don't think fitness influencers were maybe even like 2008, 2007. I don't think fitness influencers were around then. I think it was around like 2011, 2012 onwards is probably when that boom happened. Which is fortunately when I got into the gym. Sorry.
Yeah, so I just I read like whatever articles we get my hands on. I read the Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding from Arnie. That's a very classic book. And then like, I think the main thing that really helped me was, at first I was only training like normal commercial gyms, but I actually went to like a proper bodybuilding gym. It's not too far from where I live, and that's where I probably learned the most, because that's where all the knowledge was, right? All the guys that were really into it. A lot of them competed back then, and a lot of, they picked up a lot of tips, skills, and just generally being surrounded by that kind of, in that environment. You're generally going to train a bit harder when you're in a gym that everyone's pushing hard and pushing good weight and training hard and form's good, compared to your normal commercial gym, which some people just go for a social aspect.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got the yummy mummies on the treadmills, you're probably not going to be deadlifting the amounts that you deadlift. And I've seen, obviously, is crazy weights, which was another question that I had in mind. Obviously, looking through your Instagram feed and seeing the weights that you lift, was it always a aesthetic point of view that you had, or was it also like, did powerlifting or strength ever come into it? Obviously, you said that you were the skinny kid growing up and things, so I imagine there was an element of trying to grow strength, but was it always aesthetic for you, or has there ever been like a little decision in your mind of, oh, I could probably pursue powerlifting, for example?
Yeah. I mean, like, I first started getting into just to get stronger, just to get fitter and stronger and stuff. But I also used to do martial arts once a week. I used to do kung fu, and I got to a point like where kung fu was getting good, but then I was also hitting the gym and training in the week as well. And my kung fu instructor was saying to me, like, look, you either need to stay slim and nimble and quick on your feet, and back off a bit on the heavy weight side of things, because you're getting a bit bigger and a bit stiffer and a bit slower, or you need to just do one or the other. So I picked the gym.
Was that a hard decision, or was it the passion was just?
No, not really. No, I the kung fu side of things I was okay at. I wasn't great at, but I just did it mainly for like a fitness aspect. Like on a Sunday for 2 hours, it was just mainly sort of fitness side of things. So and then the more I got into it, and the more interest I felt in it, and the more friends I used to train with who were into the same bodybuilding side of things, I just naturally gravitated towards bodybuilding rather than powerlifting. It wasn't a certain choice or decision. It's just, I guess it's just one of those things. Yeah, I was never really a massive fond of powerlifting, so to speak. Nothing that was wrong with it. It's just wasn't for me. I just found bodybuilding more intriguing and went that way.
It's probably a bit more from the crowd that you got into, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly. I was in a bodybuilding gym, and there's a lot of guys competing, so naturally we just went that way.
So even switching from the commercial gym to get into this bodybuilding gym, in my mind, I'm picturing, is it Ultimate Fitness Birmingham that you might be alluding to?
That's where I am now. Before I used to train at Ironworks in Birmingham.
Okay. So
Yeah,
the sort of like a warehouse gym, big geezers in there, quite an intimidating environment at that time when
that's
you were getting
typical. Yeah. That's how you'd imagine it, and that's exactly how it was when I walked in. I remember the first time I walked in, like, it was just, it was very intimidating, I'll be honest. Like, there was all these huge guys there, and all these pictures on the wall of past bodybuilders and stuff, and all you could hear is clanging of weights, and that it was. But looking back now, I'm glad that I did walk in there.
100%. And you probably found that after the initial sort of shock of, oh my God, there's these massive men and these massive weights are hammering all over the place, and they might seem aggressive when they're lifting, but as soon as in between sets comes, or if you need any advice, I'm assuming, as you said, it's a wealth of knowledge. So, and most people are happy to share it because they've been through it themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you meet some of the nicest people. I met some of my best friends in the gym, and you will always meet like some great people there. Like, just because it's a hardcore, spit and sawdust kind of place, don't be intimidated by it, because, like you said, there's a lot of knowledge in there. People are always more than willing to help, especially in those kind of environments.
100%. I couldn't agree more. As obviously the people that was spoke to on the podcast previously, I think 99% of them, if not all, 100% agree with that. It's a lot more intimidating than it actually is. It's probably the more the psychology behind it of getting in there and seeing obviously big guys and things, but most of them are the kind of people that you meet because in essence anybody who's in there has started where you've started. Do you know what I mean? Of going to the gym and getting through them hurdles and mental barriers and whatnot. When you were at the commercial gym and decided to go to the bodybuilding gym, one, what was the reasoning behind it? Was it because you obviously wanted more knowledge and knew that you could get it from there, or because you wanted to take training more seriously? And two, what sort of stage in lifting would you say you were at then? Would you like still a beginner level, or do you think you were getting into the intermediate before the advanced?
I think because I knew a few people that used to go there, and I've heard of it, and it wasn't far from where I was training anyway. So yeah, I think it was just naturally kind of, if I wanted to pursue more in the bodybuilding route, that would probably be the natural route to go down to, you know, go into an environment where it's more dedicated and tailored for that. In terms of, I've never competed before. I've done like maybe one diet down just to see how lean I could get, but it was just, you know, nothing compared to being on stage. So yeah, so when I went there, I've never competed before, yeah, never competed before.
And when did that decision come into it of taking it from a hobby and, you know, wanting to have a good summer body, or do you know what I mean, having like a winter bulk and seeing how big you can get, to right, let's get on stage, let's have an actual prep, let's see how lean I can get? Because there is a big difference between I want to have a good body for the beach, or I'm going on a lad's holiday to Ibiza or something, compared to I want my veins to be popping out on this way. I need my shoulders to be more rounded and my quads to be popping, so that the judge can sort of like, it's completely different levels. And I'm not discrediting anything of looking good for Ibiza, because everyone wants to do that as well. But obviously that it's like a mental switch that you would have to do. So when did that come into play?
I think just as my training was progressing, and you know, like I knew the owner very well and a few other guys in the gym very well that were more experienced, and they said, you know, you're doing good, you should try doing a show. And at first I thought, nah, no chance. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, why not? You know, we can just, I mean, my initial thought was I could just give it a go once and see how I get on. Didn't really have much of an expectation, didn't go in with anything specific in mind, just to try it, you know. So then fast forwarding maybe a year or two, I did a long, you know, like a prep for a show, and entered the first timers competition. So that was my first show. I think it was 2010, possibly, I want to say. And it was a NABA show, so NABA first timers in the Midlands. And I just went in just to see how I'd get on, you know.
Do you remember where you came in that show?
Yeah, I came first.
Came first. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not too bad, isn't it? That probably spurs you on to do a few more. Because I was going to ask, because obviously 2010 your first show, 2018 is obviously when you got the most recent first place. I don't think you've competed since COVID's lifted.
No.
So was that 2018 show the last one you did?
Yes, 2018 last show. Yeah.
Because that was the question I was going to have. Was it you didn't win the first show, but gradually progressed up until the 2018, and obviously winning that show? But obviously, if you've won the first one, was it then just getting up onto bigger shows with probably more experienced people and challenging yourself in that way?
Yeah, that's it. So I did 2010. I did a first timers, and then later that year was the overall finals, which I think I came third in that one, like a novice finals. And that basically you do all your regional qualifiers, which the one in the Midlands I came first in, and then all the winners from the regional qualifiers enter the finals. See, you know, who's going to win the finals. And in that one, for the novice one, I came third in. And then I think I had a year. I pretty much used to go by competing a year, having a year out, competing a year, then having a year out, in most cases. And then the following time I competed, I obviously couldn't do first timers anymore. So then I think I did a intermediate class or a novice class, and then just slowly kind of crept my way up the categories, if you like. So at the very beginning, you have things like first timers, and at the very top, you've got like open men's bodybuilding, which is the ones I've always doing most recently before turning pro.
Is that quite common of competing a year, taking a year out? Because from my understanding, most people just go back to back years. You mean winter's your off season, then prep for like probably the summer show of things. Was there any reason for that? Was it just work-life balance, or was it because you wanted to put on more size so that the next time you competed, you could actually see a bit more difference, or what was the logic behind that?
A lot of people, well, most people would diet a lot, let's say anywhere between 12 and 16-ish weeks, roughly, right, for a show. I would generally I've always done this, I've always done a bit of a longer prep. So it started off at being something like 18, 20 weeks, and then maybe 25. And then like when I was doing the last couple of shows I've done in 2017 and 18, I was doing like 30-week preps.
Oh, fuck.
Which is like, yeah, right. Which is more than double what other people would do. So if I'm doing a longer prep, therefore my off season's shorter. So yeah, I would take a year out mainly to kind of have a bit of a break from competing and have a decent length of off season, try and pack on some good size.
So when you're extending this prep time, I'm guessing it's more of a gradual decrease. Is that just something that's preference then?
Yeah, I've always preferred that, because you see, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've done some shows when it's been a shorter prep, and it's you've got to basically shift the weight quicker, so you've got to work that much harder, and you got to sometimes you've got to force the weight to come off a bit more. Whereas I've always because I quite like the consistency and the routine of a prep. So some people might find it really hard to like eat the same food every day, do the cardio in the morning and all that, find it quite monotonous. But I didn't mind it. So if I don't mind it, I might as well take my time and chip away at it really slowly. So that's my thinking behind it. That's normally worked well for me.
First, it comes to that thing where like everybody's body's different, and everybody's like, if you like the routine and the discipline aspect, then it's easier for you to just, as you say, chip away at it. But it's just surprising. I can't imagine dieting for 30 weeks. It's a long ass time, that is.
Same. I get that reaction from a lot of people when I tell them how long I prep for. It's just one of those things. I just preferred it now.
Do you again, where people's personal preferences come in, is some people prefer to keep their calories as high as long as possible, and obviously have increased cardio or things in the interim, and then as they're getting closer can obviously start dipping into the calories that way, and some people do it the reverse, of bring down the calories and then they'll increase their cardio if they can't go any further. What sort of side do you fit on? Because I imagine with the routine aspect, you probably would keep your calories quite high and chip away at the cardio, like you just said.
Exactly that, yeah. So at the beginning of my prep, normally food, a moderate amount, decent amount, and I'll either won't do any cardio and just either chip away at some food, or keep it the same and just put some cardio in. And as the weeks go by, just keep monitoring it, and keep tweaking it. So it's either, like you said, either chip away at some food, or another 10-15 minutes of cardio every other day, per day, twice a day, however that needs to work. I mean, the gym that I train at the moment is Ultimate Fitness in Birmingham, and the owner of that gym, Simon Fan, is a really good friend of mine, and he's actually prepped me for most of my shows, especially more recently.
Right.
So we'll work with him. I think we work really well, to be honest. He kind of manages, like he's got a really good eye, so he'll have a look at me, see how I'm looking, look at my food, and just tell me what to change, and then I'll just go away and do it. No questions asked. If this is what you need to eat and this is what you need to stick to, I'll just stick to it and do it. And I think together we work well like that, and the last few shows have shown that.
It is obviously a key part of it, is because I think most people when they get to like obviously stage and things, initially you can do most of it yourself, but from obviously the conversations that I've had, most people do have that person in their ear to guide them, and that's very important, because if you do have the wrong person, it's like again, it comes down to the understanding of your own bodies and things, and so if it works for one person, it's probably not going to work for another, and sometimes that becomes an issue with trainers and people who are planning for others, from what I understand. So it's obviously good that you've found him that obviously, and the working relationship is really well.
Yeah.
When you're cutting, is that, I don't want to say easy, because obviously it won't be, but because you're coming from this skinny kid who probably has a good metabolism, is it harder actually to be putting on the weight than it is to be taking it off?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so again, everyone's different, right? Some people put weight on easily, and find it hard to diet, and I think like in our genetic makeup as well, it's easy for us to get fatter than other
You don't need to tell me.
other
You don't
cultures
need
in
to tell
society.
me.
But yeah, I've always found putting weight on, like when I say putting weight on, I mean, anyone can put weight on if you eat crap all day, but putting good size on, clean as possible, I've always struggled with. I've always found that hard. So I've always preferred to diet down. And the initial, like if I'm doing a 30-week prep, the first, 20 weeks, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's easier in comparison to the last 10 or the last 6, or whatever the last section is. Yeah, so yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I much prefer dieting down than I would have to really pack on some size and bulk up.
Which is, I'm guessing that might be another contributing factor to why the off season's so long as well, because then it allows you to obviously put on a lot more size over a spread amount of time, similar to why you do a spread amount of time for your prep. Sort of a bit that we might have actually skipped is during the sort of getting a bit more serious about bodybuilding, having the competitions, and well, generally just getting into the gym initially. The skinny kid who might have had confidence issues and things like that, and you've mentioned it a few times now of discipline and you like sort of the routine that fitness gives you. How much of an impact has both of them things play? So one, the discipline, and secondly the confidence, because I've heard you talk about this previously, and I think most people when they get into the gym can probably relate to it, but I've heard you say it quite passionately before, and obviously very eloquently. So, what sort of role has that played? Like, what impact has that had on your life outside of fitness?
I think the routine and the discipline that training will give you in life, and that could be any type of training. It doesn't have to be training for bodybuilding show, right? It could be training for any competitive sport. Will massively give you some like real good life values going forward, I think. So like I said before, like I started off in Kung Fu, was my first real kind of athletic sort of training, if you like. And the instructor, he was a pastor from my dad. So I knew him like since I've been a little kid. And he didn't go easy on me at all. They used to get like, it was tough. It was like really pushing you to your limits. With their training, with the fitness side of things, press ups and sit ups constantly, drills, and if you didn't do it, you would get punished for it, right? And it was tough. It was real tough training, and I think that massively embedded some good skills in me from the very beginning. And then even with the training as well, like in the gym, pushing, if you want to get heavier, push heavier weights and get stronger and fitter, you've got to put the work in. No one can do it for you. That's one thing that no one can do. Everyone can. I can drag you to the gym. I can cook all your meals for you. I can even feed you your food as well. But if you're not going to lift the weight and put the effort in and do the cardio, then you're not going to get anywhere. So the discipline I think training and bodybuilding has given me has been like fundamental to things outside of the gym. In terms of like my career, relationships, it makes you put the work in. And if you can get that sort of base from a young age, I think it's puts you in good stead for things in the future.
100%. It's like for growth, you need that sort of, you need to push beyond comfortability, and like obviously going to the gym and doing just going through the motions doesn't obviously always have as much impact. But if you are going the extra mile to get that growth, it's a different sort of mindset to just going through the motions, and I think that is very transferable. I think that was the words from the clip that I seen online was it was that word specifically, transferable, which like resonated with me, is the transferable skills that you get from having an athletic background. As you say, it doesn't matter in what, it could be football, swimming, kung fu, bodybuilding, powerlifting, anything, but just having the athletic background where you have that discipline to have progress in a sport, and physically, obviously mentally it does wonders, but that discipline obviously is transferred into any walks of life. I feel like we might have from the background that we come from, as stereotypically being hard workers and things, might have like a bit of a edge in that sense, if that makes sense. Like the way that we approach things, like from a family value type way, would be like you don't half-ass anything really, do you? Like you get told from a young age, like you do this, either do it good or don't do it, basically. Which is obviously a good way to approach things. And when you take it into the fitness space and you see the results, obviously when you go into the gym initially and you approach it that way, you're probably going to get that beginner gains and a lot more difference. And then I think that's when the addiction sort of kicks in. It's like, oh shit, like I could bench like 40 last week and now I can bench 60 now, and now it's 80. And then the chasing numbers thing's a bit of a ropey one, but progress in general is obviously quite addicting.
Exactly. I think with the discipline side of things, though, like I think bodybuilding might be one of the hardest ones to keep up, because it's I've always said to people that I've spoken to as well, like going into the gym for an hour and a half a day, that's easy. That's easier. That's the fun bit, isn't it? That's something you enjoy doing. You enjoy going to the gym, maybe with a friend or two, you know, pushing some good weight, walking out and thinking, yeah, I've done a good session today, I've pushed some good weight. But it's the other 23 hours you got to worry about. Right, it's the food, it's the sleep, it's the recovery, it's the physio work. All those things has to be on point as well to be competitive. And I think in this sport it needs it. Whereas, not taking anything away from anything else, but other sports you can maybe, it's not going to be as intense. You know, once you finish the training session for that day, then it's not till the next day, is it? But with bodybuilding, it's full on. 24/7, you've got to think of everything from that point of view.
Well, exactly. It's like it's maintaining that output while you're decreasing the input is obviously going to be harder and harder as it goes on. And like I agree, but most sports now are sort of cottoning on to recovery and nutrition and things, which is good. Obviously, I think bodybuilding, because of the intensity and how lean you have to get, was probably a bit ahead of the curve. But now you have things like whoop straps and things to give you recovery times, or like even Apple Watches or whatever. It is a weird one, because the amount of different people that I've spoke to the podcast from athletic backgrounds, respectfully, everybody thinks their sport's the hardest. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a hard one for me sitting here and be like, yeah, fully agree. Because I probably have said that. I probably have said that to the powerlifter before, to the boxer before them, and to the martial artist before them. Like, yeah, completely agree, mate. Yours is the hardest. Do you know what I mean? And I've sort of caught myself.
Everything's hard until you've done it, isn't it? You know, like,
exactly.
Your GCSEs are hard, but once you've done your university exams, the GCSEs seem easy, don't they?
Exactly.
Same thing, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Just before we do go into recovery and things, because that is something I'm very interested in. What did you find an impact of confidence as well? Because as you say, skinny kid, and we're sort of talking about the discipline side, but confidence wise, when you started being a bit more consistent in the gym and taking it more seriously, what was the impact that had on outside of fitness?
I think, definitely, you know, like, because not only does the training side thing make you feel good, make you feel better, which will naturally give you more confidence in yourself and in your self-esteem as well. So that's one big thing, first of all. Hitting the gym and just getting stronger, fitter, healthier. You just generally feel better about yourself, and that's going to rub off in other aspects of your life as well. Certainly as a person. I think one big thing as well was like people that know me very well, and I might come across as, you know, I'm easy to talk to and whatnot, but especially in my younger days, I found it very difficult talking to like new people or talking to someone that I didn't know before. And especially in like the bodybuilding sort of types of gyms, you'll come across such a vast range of people from different backgrounds, from different careers and different walks of life, all with one common interest, which is, you know, training. And I think I've met so many different people in the gym And that's definitely given me confidence and helped along the way as well. You know, like training with, even just training with someone for the odd session, don't know who they are, just spotting them on the machine, oh, can I jump in? Yeah, go on then, and we just start chatting. I've met some really good friends just from doing that, you know. So yeah, it's being in that environment, just kind of putting yourself out of that comfort zone in terms of what you're doing and people you're meeting and speaking to, and just generally, I think the confidence training gives you, you know, as you're progressing.
Yeah, 100%. So it's like twofold, isn't it? It's the I'm progressing, I'm doing work, so there's that inner confidence of I'm working towards something and I'm being proactive. And then the second side is because you're actually in that environment that opens you up to more people, then you're able to like communicate with more people effectively, which again, I think this is a cultural shift that we're finding now, but a lot more kids are getting into sports, and I think it is very valuable for that reason. Obviously, the discipline that we've spoken about, but also the confidence and getting into that social group, because I think most people my age and above that I've spoken to have the fear of, oh, kids nowadays are just, you know, on their phones, nobody talks to each other, everyone's just texting and things. Whereas obviously that sporting environment is very physical, and it's very social at the same time, like you said. And hopefully that is a cultural shift that we're seeing with the likes of yourself, and obviously there's a lot of people in the let's say South Asian fitness industry. Obviously we've seen like Sikh Muscle events that you've been a part of as well. You have spoken previously about struggles of the cultural side initially when you were getting into bodybuilding. I can see the little smirk on your face there, of like, and when I was listening to it, I fully agree, because it is. I remember having like relatives around, and I had food scales where you would weigh your plates, and my mum would just be like, just put that in the cupboard before your auntie comes around or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's not have the protein powder on the kitchen worktop or something. And obviously when you're going around to somebody else's, just eat what you want there, and then you can do whatever you want when you come back home. But like when you go to aunties, just have the samosa that I put on the plate. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't sort of mess around. And I feel like you had a similar sort of experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think like nowadays it's somewhat a bit easier because there's a lot more people in like, if you look at just bodybuilding competing nowadays, there's a lot of openers that are doing it now, which is great to see, you know, and I hope it, you know, progresses even further. But I remember when I was competing back in 2010, 11, but whenever, you know, quite a while ago when I first started off, there wasn't many Indian competitors, certainly not at a like, you know, without sounding arrogant, at a competitive level as well. And like, you can go back to certain times, like going around to family members' houses, like you've mentioned, and not eating anything, literally having a glass of water, and that's it. And they'll find that offensive, you know. They'll find that, like, why are you coming around to our house and not eating for, and stuff like that. And trying to explain to them, like, I want to enter this competition, and I'm following my passion, and you know, they all knew I'll go to the gym, they all knew I was to train and hit the gym, but they never really grasped or got their head around. Just one samosa, eat it, you know, one bit of my chai, have it, it's no big deal. But it is one little piece here and there all adds up, doesn't it? And if you want to be the best you can, you've got to be as disciplined as possible. And they never really understood that. And they never really understood my whole passion about training either. Like, a lot of my family were like, well, why are you competing? But I remember once, I can't remember who it was, someone that said it to me, it said, why are you competing for? Because you'll never be as good as the English guy or the black guy. You know, you're not made for this sport. You're not made genetically. You're not made for bodybuilding. What are you doing, wasting your time? And that really fucking pissed me off. You know, like, I think if someone tells you can't do something, it makes you want to do it even more. I'm certainly like that. I'm quite competitive in that sense. So yeah, so that there was an element of that, and sitting there and trying to talk to them about it and tell them that this is what I want to do, and just couldn't get their head around it. I found it really hard. And it was only after, like, winning a few shows and getting some recognition in, you know, like at shows, and so all my family would come to my shows and support me and watch me. at first they might have thought, oh, it's just a phase, he's going through, it'll soon fizzle out. But once they see me winning a few shows, especially some big shows, and once I saw other people, you know, giving that recognition, or other family members, people in or out of the culture, talking to them, you know, about me and stuff, they kind of realize, oh, actually, maybe he is, you know, decent at this or good at this. And after the years, as the years went on, and the more shows I did, I kind of adapted to it eventually. It was a real tough role, don't get me wrong. Dieting for competition and like doing everything you got to do is hard enough, especially towards the latter stages, because your cardio is high, your food's so low, you've got lack of energy, you can just about manage your day job and train and cardio. You know, you've got literally zero energy for anything else, and then trying to deal with all that, it's just, don't need this. So a lot of the time, I just simply wouldn't go to people's houses, I wouldn't go to social events. And I kind of locked myself in the house or the gym, and it was one of those two things. And I think the more socially acceptable things are like they are now, if they were back then, it would have made life a lot easier. Mm-hmm. But, you know, someone's got to help pave that way in terms of educating our families, our elders. And I'm sure now, if somebody wanted to get into the sport and you know, they've got previous examples of people that have competed, have done it, more than likely they're going to be known to our elders as well. So they'll, you know, at least have a bit more of an idea about it. But back then it was just, I think the main thing is lack of education to our elder generations, and which is by no means their fault at all, right? Because no one in our community really goes down this route, you know, of a sporting background, a professional sporting background. Only till recently that's happened. Mm-hmm. So it was tough telling them and educating them and trying to get them round, you know, to my side of things. But I think once they saw me entering more shows, you know, doing well, progressing up, they kind of became a lot more accepting of it.
100%. I was going to say that it's probably not even worth like even trying to explain it. It's just easier just showing the results at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like, look, here's a first place trophy, and that's more of it probably would have more of an impact than sitting down for half an hour and be like, this is why I'm doing this, because it's still like, where's the results essentially? We do come from a very results based sort of background. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you can show me the path that you try to go to, it makes it a lot easier, which is another reason that like I started this podcast, is because there's that many people that are doing these amazing things, but it makes it easier when there's someone who looks like you who's already done it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Fortunately, like obviously spoken to boxers and powerlifters and bodybuilders, and it does make that a lot more easier when you can actually say like, oh, like you said, from a genetic background makeup, that you can actually do it. Because in sports that is 100% a thing where, look, you're Indian, you're probably not genetically made for this. Allow it, because there is going to be a black guy or a white guy or whatever a lot better than you. And I think
you just reminded me of something. Like my first show I did was at Nava Midland show, and I remember I got there a bit earlier than everyone else because you got to register and check in and get your badge number and all that stuff. So I went on my own, and I was in the car park and I was paying for my parking ticket. Another little paying display. Mm-hmm. I was paying for my paying display. I looked to my left, and there was this like massive guy stood next to me, and he had like a sleeveless hoodie on, and his arms were like huge, a lot of that, and I was like flipping there. And he had tan on as well, so I could tell he was competing because he had the tan on from the day before. And I just said to him, "Oh, you're right, mate. You paid?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I paid for my ticket and said, "Oh, you're looking really good. What show are you doing? What class are you doing?" And he was first timers, and like my heart sank a bit, and I was like, because like it was like a Rocky IV kind of guy, you know, like a massive Russian blonde mohawk in the middle. It was just a tank, and like, you know, just put me off. And I was just like, I walked back to the car, really deflated, put my ticket in, and all the rest of it. But it goes to show, you know. So you know, like having someone massive and huge doesn't count for anything.
Well, you still won that show, so you know what I mean. Yeah, like, exactly, yeah. So it's a properly a Rocky IV movie. You know what I mean? Rocky still won at the end of the day.
Yeah. So just going back to your point about like how other, you know, cultures have maybe better genetics. Yeah, probably is true. But if you put the work in, then nothing can beat your hard work, can it?
Well, yeah, exactly. It's that old age saying, isn't it? Hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could have
exactly.
the chip on the shoulder of, oh look, I've got the genetics, and you might actually become complacent as a result. Whereas the person who might have quote unquote lesser genetics, or not made for bodybuilding genetics, should I say, would have that sort of like prove you wrong sort of attitude, and
Yeah, yeah,
obviously,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
as you alluded to, I think the other thing, obviously, when it comes down to nutrition, is and we're seeing this obviously with like the farmers protests and things, is the importance that our background puts on food because of the hard work that goes into it, is another obstacle sort of for elders in the family. Like, especially when you go into the gym, the perception is, if you go into the gym, you need more to eat. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't have less, like have that extra roti, that extra samosa, that extra this, extra that. Whereas obviously the goals are slightly different. Maybe in like a powerlifting context that might make sense, but
mm,
and even then you have to cut down to weight classes. So it
yeah,
is, as
yeah,
you say, the education thing. The genetics thing is going to be very interesting to see going forward, because now we have like professional footballers who are breaking through, like your Sarpreet Singhs, your Jan Danders, your Mal Bennings and things, and to see where we place on like a footballing context, which is the biggest sport in the world. So it would be very interesting on that aspect. We have a lot of
yeah.
powerlifters and bodybuilders now, as a result of people like yourself paving the way. So it will be interesting to see how far people can push their genetics to see where the outcomes are, because that always has been the excuse. But if there's more people at the top, you can't use that excuse for a lot
Yeah,
longer.
precisely. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
100%. um PCA, so was that 2018 your first PCA competition?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So is PCA, when you're going for your pro card, that is the competition that you go for? Is it different governing bodies?
Well, no, there's multiple federations. I think back then UKBFF was around as well. I'm not sure they are. I don't think they are now. But there's multiple federations out there. Even today, there's multiple federations out there, right? PCA was, I think PCA is one of them that has is one of the earliest ones that's happened over the last so many years. But it's one of the ones that's probably grown the quickest as well. And back then, I just like I knew people within the federation and what the values stood for and everything. And it looked good. Some big shows, some good competitors out there as well. It's a competitive lineup as well. It's good. You don't want to compete against quote unquote crap athletes, right? You want to compete against the best out there, or the people that look the best or do the best, because that's how you're going to get a good value of how competitive you truly are. And PCA is good. It had some really big names. It still does, competing with them. And the first show I did with them was at the NEC Body Power.
Mm.
So that was the qualifier that I did. And I can't remember where I came. I think I came second or possibly second. I'll have to have a look, actually. I can't remember. But yeah, so I entered that one, and I entered under the class 3 bodybuilding. So how it works is you have different, for men's bodybuilding, you have 4 categories: class 1 to 4, and class 1 being the tallest, class 2 being like a certain height parameter, if you like, class 3 being medium sort of height, and class 4 being short. So I for my height, I came under class 3. So that was the qualifying show that I did, and that was in May. And then I think we had about 4 weeks to the finals, which was in June. And then competed in the finals in June 2017, and won my category for that one. So I won the men's bodybuilding class 3 British title. And I remember talking to my training partner at the time, Dean Leishak. I'm sure you must have seen him over my social media feeds. He's an absolute tank. And I think that's one thing as well, like having people to train with, having the right type of people to train with, which we can certainly touch on. But I remember talking to him backstage afterwards, and I was like, won my class, and that was all. That was one of my biggest aims. I wanted to win a category at a British final, which I did. I remember saying to him, look, let's go for food. Let's forget the overall. Let's go. And he goes, Van, you can't miss the overall, because basically every category winner goes back at the end of the day and has an overall winner. So then, if you can imagine, like, you've got all the different regional qualifiers throughout the year. You got how many hundreds of people competing at each show. Then you got the top 2 or 3 from each category from a regional show coming to the finals. And then already at the finals, you're already against all the other winners from each region, aren't you? So then you've got to win your category at that. So then I won the British finals in my class, and I was ready to go out and go get some food. But he was like, you can't miss the overall at the end. So I was like, oh, go on, it's not long, I'll do it. And I was just like so shocked when they announced my name as the overall winner. I was like, you're having a laugh. This is not, you being serious? Because it was like there were some amazing athletes on that stage, you know. So for them to pick me, I was like just massively shocked. And then when they said they were giving, you know, there was 2 people that won a pro card that day, and they gave me one of them as well. It was total shock. I didn't expect it at all.
When you're doing the overalls, and obviously you've won your class, do you have to go back on stage, or do they just do it from your previous like stage presence when you do a new class?
Go back on stage.
You go back.
So
they
get all the winners from each class all back on stage.
Oh wow, makes it even more impressive, because obviously if you're up against the taller guys and the shorter guys and stuff, and then
absolutely, that's
amazing.
It. And that's not just bodybuilding; that's across the whole show, that whole day. So you got the men's physique, you've got the classic, you've got the over 50s, over 40s, you've got the men's bodybuilding, whatever other classes you've got in between there as well. Every male winner that won their category was on stage again.
That's sick. And obviously, as you say, you won your pro card. And it is that thing where, like, going back to the fitnessy influencer thing, if you see like pro card in someone's, or IFBB or something like that, you know, PCA in someone's Instagram bio, it's like that legit sort of like, oh, this guy's legit sort of thing. What is actually like, what are the additional perks of having that pro card though? Because you can obviously go and compete in professional competitions, and obviously you can put it in your Instagram bio. But like, what actually changes from that?
I think once I won the pro card, it massively helps, right? Because like you're not an amateur athlete anymore; you're a professional athlete. So, and it's that accolade of actually having that achievement, having done it. So some people win it and don't do anything with it. Some people go on and go to an Olympia stage with it. You know, it just depends how far you want to take it. Like I certainly had like companies interested in like sponsorships and like supplement companies and all that sort of stuff. And then the following year in 2018, I competed. Actually competed twice in 1 week with PCA. So I think it was so the British finals were in October. Sorry, the world finals were in October. But a few weeks prior to that, I flew out to China and I competed out in China. Yeah. So I competed out in China at a PCA show in China. And that was one of the perks. You know, they sent me out there to compete. So that was really, it was interesting being in, I've never been to China before. And it wasn't even like in like Beijing. It was like some remote city in China. Nobody spoke English. It was a interesting journey, let's say. It was interesting. So I competed there, and I think I competed there on a Tuesday morning, and Tuesday night I got the flight back to Birmingham, which I would have landed on Wednesday night. So it was pretty much like 20 hours door to door, or 22 hours door to door, with a stop at Dubai, I think it was. And then I landed back on the Wednesday night, literally got home, showered, had some food, in the gym Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday competed at the World Finals.
Wow. How does that affect, as in, obviously you're training towards a goal, and I imagine travel food is shit, essentially. Recovery is probably not the best because you're on a flight, etc. Was there even like a little cheat meal in between, like after your first show, or do you just have to stay on track with your diet and basically have your second show as the target and not the first show, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So traveling, I know you did a show with with Raj as well.
Yeah.
He's a pilot, yeah. So
but it's a bit different because he's a pilot, so he could like put
he
his
can
food
take it,
away. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
As a passenger, it's a bit harder.
It's a bit harder. So what I did was on the way to China. So I worked out I'm going to be traveling for 20 hours, right? And I already arranged when I get to China, I've got a food prep person to prep meals for me. So then all I had to worry about was traveling there.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked out how long it's going to be and how many meals I'll need for that duration, made a few extras, and basically cooked everything, bagged it all up into portions and stuck it in the freezer and froze them. And then I took a cool bag with me with loads of like ice packs and, you know, ice coolers and stuff in there. And every few hours I'll get a meal out, I'll take 2 out, let one defrost and eat one. And every time I take a meal out, I'll eat one and then take one out. And by the time my next meal is due, it's more or less defrosted. And the airline were pretty good. I mean, I checked in with all my food frozen fine. No one said anything to me.
Right.
Yeah, and on hand luggage, which was surprising. Even the airline was pretty good. Excuse me. They like heating my food up for me and stuff. So it was okay. And then I did the same thing on the way back. So the person that was prepping my food out in China, I got them to make me a bulk of meals, and then I just bagged them all up, bought Ziploc bags, bagged them all up, asked the hotel to stick it in the freezer for me. And then before I travelled, just got it out and then did the same thing on the way home.
Oh shit, because I didn't think, like, mate, you can't even take a bottle of water sometimes to check in. Do you know what I mean? Like, if it's open, I was thinking how you can take meals too. I thought maybe Raj was his like special situation because he's the pilot, so it's a bit different. But I didn't think passengers could obviously take food like that on board. So next time going to India or something, I know what to do in it.
I mean, I don't know how things are going to be now. Like, I know things are a lot stricter nowadays, but certainly back then, which one we say back then, it was only a few years ago. I think because my food is frozen solid, it was literally like proper solid frozen food. We went through the scanner and they didn't say anything twice. So I was like, okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You learned something new. What was the food like in China? Was it basically just like, this is going to be a very ignorant question, but are their meal preps basically the same as ours? Like, do you request, like, can I just have chicken, broccoli and rice, or would it be like Chinese chicken? Do you know what I mean? Like,
so what I did was when I went, I took half a suitcase of packs of rice from home,
right.
Like just normal microwave packs of rice. And I also took a wok with me, an electric wok.
Okay.
In my suitcase.
Okay? Right.
So when I got there, all I had the meal prep person do was just make me plain chicken and broccoli. That's all they did. And then all I did was I measured my rice with my scales that I took with me, chucked it all in the wok, heated it up in the hotel room, and that was my meal. So pretty much stuck to it there as well.
The lengths you got to go to, electric woks in the
crazy,
suitcase.
Right? You know, yeah, look at it. I found myself an electric wok. I found, like all these things like you'd never think of taking with you, like cutlery tubs or, anything you need, like a spatula, scales, tubs, everything. I took it all in my took my stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, and how did both competitions go? So the one in China, where did you place on that? And then when you came back, I believe you came first in the one in Birmingham.
So the one in China, I came, making me think now, I think it was 4th or 5th, possibly. I think they do things very differently in China.
Right, okay.
But yeah, it was a good experience nonetheless. And then I landed to the show on the Sunday, and that was the PCA World Finals. So what they do is PCA, each country, so PCA is worldwide now, right? They've got competitions around the world. Each country is offered to bring their top athletes to the world finals to compete. So then I think in my category, I had myself, there was Dean White, who was British. I think there's a Polish guy and a few others. There's about 4 or 5 of us. 2 of us were from the UK, and the rest were all around the world. And effectively, they just bring all the top athletes to compete in the world finals, really. But this was the pro class.
Right.
The amateur class was on in the day, and then the pro classes were on in the evening.
And then, as you say, came first in that.
Yeah, okay, I'm first. I won that one, yeah.
Which is It's that slow, like, just progression, then you reach like the top. So was the elation any different to any other competition, knowing that this is like the creme de la creme?
Definitely, yeah. Like I think just looking at the athletes who were stood next to, there were some big names and guys who looking incredible. So to come out and beat them all, is obviously an amazing achievement, right? Especially having been flying that week. I mean, you would never think of entering the show and flying, because of the water retention and all the complications. What if you're delayed? I was tired. All that.
Yeah.
All that comes into it. So yeah, it was definitely really good, really really good, and being a pro show as well. To win a pro show so early on is amazing. And it's a shame I haven't done any more since, but COVID and everything else happened. So
yeah, exactly. And it's even more surprising in the China result, because if you come in and win in the Worlds, but you're not winning the show, like, or placing even like like second or something there, it's what differences were there? Like, I don't know if during the conversation with Raj, he was saying that OG Sindhu went to I think it was Spain and competed there. And prior to that, they were saying like, "Oh, take off your turban," and things like that.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
And obviously, as a result, well, it's unsure if as a result he plays badly, but the way that Raj explained it to me was a bit more like, you can put two and two together. They didn't really look at him too much. I don't know if that is what you're alluding to in China, or if they just generally have different practices and things.
Yeah, I mean, I heard of that, like regarding OGCD as well, and in Spain. I think thankfully, right, I've never had to directly experience anything like that myself personally. Whether it's happened without me knowing, who knows, right? But I think China was just, they had certain people that don't get me wrong, they had some amazing athletes there as well, some really really good athletes there, and they were all from different parts of the world as well. So yeah, maybe I just got beat that day, yeah, it's one of them, and obviously they've got different practices and different ways of maybe scoring or judging shows and whatnot, and maybe they have their own favorites of the people that they prefer as well out there, who knows. I've always said, like, if you get a result on the day, if you feel really hard done by, just use that for next time around. You can't change a result. Once it's done, whether you feel that you've been cheated or robbed or not, you can't change it, can you? There's no point. Like, I've been to shows when someone's placed, third or second, and they've had a strap on stage, thrown the medal on the floor and they walked off and all sorts, and all it does is makes you look like an idiot,
And it's not respectful to your fellow competitor who has won or has placed ahead of you, because they've made the sacrifices that you have. So it is, like, obviously disrespectful, but I think the main thing is you just want sort of fairness all around, really, and consistency.
Yeah, and you do hear these stories where, really great athletes, Indian athletes, just don't get a look in, and it happens, it does. Whether that's happened with me or not, I mean, I've never, thankfully, touch wood, I've never entered a show when I've just, not placed or not done very well. I think I almost have that mentality of that you go in and it doesn't matter who's you stood next to, who it is, how big of a social media following they have, or how popular they might be. You got to give the judges zero excuses not to pick you.
Yeah.
So if it's like I've judged shows now, and like with PCA, so now, like, I haven't been competing for a few years, and like I said, I get on well with the guys at PCA. So I have done last season, not this season, but last season I was judging a fair few shows with them. And on the day, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if you think, oh, that person's really famous, or they've got 1 million followers on Instagram. None of that matters. All that matters on that particular day, how they all look, and just pick the best person.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by, like, you see people that feel they've been hard done by, but that's the sport, isn't it? That's life, unfortunately. So regardless of whatever result it is, just just take it and just use that to drive you to the next one is what's the best thing I'd say, because you can't change it.
Definitely. The way that you've mentioned, obviously social media following and external factors, I'm guessing the way that you're saying don't have that play a part, it probably does. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that why you're sort of mentioning
Probably.
it? Like, it isn't like
Yeah,
like
probably.
subconsciously, if you look at somebody and it's somebody that you probably know has a bit more of a profile, you're more likely to score in their favor. It's sort of like the home advantage in a boxing fight. Like, boxing judges will have different preferences, but if you're getting a cheer for the person who lands one punch and then nothing for the person who lands three, you're going to score the one who lands one a bit more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, potentially, you know. I think that's why the role of a judge is tough. So I've seen it, but I've been a competitor and I've been a judge as
Yeah.
well. So you see it from both sides, you know. And from a competitor's point of view, you do feel sometimes that I should have placed higher, or I'm better than that guy, or, you know, look what the hell's going on and stuff. But then you see it from a judge's point of view, as long as they all do their job fairly, you know, that's the result. And the thing is, it's not like one judge can't turn your decision. Like, if I wanted one particular person to win at a show, I can't make that happen, because my one result will not change that. You've got 7, 8 judges all sat on this table. If my result is completely off compared to everyone else's, you know, it's not really going to do much. If everyone's result is the same, then not only does it show consistency in the judging, but then it shows, you know, whoever they picked is probably a worthy winner. So it's not even like one person can change things. So it's not even, you know, like when people feel that they're, you know, so and so knows someone or whatever. It's not. It can't really be done that way. Yeah, you know, it's tough. It's tough because sometimes it does bring people back to reality and bring them down, you know, to the ground a bit more. But going back to the very original point you mentioned, like the incident in Spain, you know, I did hear of that, and yeah, you know, some athletes are clearly really, you can tell by looking at them, they're a really good athlete and they've got a great physique and they deserve to be placed in a, you know, if that was me judging that show, I would have definitely placed them differently, and other people think the same, and they don't get looking, and that's just unfortunate. It really is, and it shouldn't be that way, you know. And I think the more of us, more often that compete with turbans, with Batya and whatever, and you know, do well, the more recognition we'll get, and the more, you know, socially acceptable it is to not really think of it. And it shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't, just because you're judging from the neck down, you're not judging the face or the head or anything like that. So what does it matter if someone's got glasses on or someone's got a fog on? It doesn't, right?
Exactly. And I think, as you say, the more people that do it, the more of like a shift there will be, and I do feel like that is coming from you see like pages like Seek Muscle who highlight that many individuals that are in this space from our background, and you can see from them that like there is that many more people doing it than perhaps 10 years ago. Unfortunately, is a thing that's happening in other sports as well. Like I think I've heard a few stories of footballers who had similar situations and similar paths of like, oh, he's probably not going to be good anyway, so then sort of let's just stick with the black or the white kid or whatever it may be. But then I think there is external sort of excuses, but there's also internal things that we need to look at as a community. As we say, the sort of cultural stereotypes are not just enforced by external factors, but internal factors as well. Like, we as a community do put more emphasis on educational academic roles, which is good because it is more security, and fully understand that our parents or our elders who didn't have that security would want that security for the children. But obviously now, as there is a bit more of establishment of a community in say like Western countries like the UK and America, now there is that next generation who potentially have their parents are the ones that had to miss out on football and pursue doctor, engineer, lawyer, as the stereotype goes, and then can sort of push their children to pursue their passions a bit more, which would in turn make things a bit more fair, because you'll see more people in them communities. That's the hope anyway. That is the hope. because as I say, we spoke about the OG Sidhu situation. Hopefully, I think he might be coming on the podcast as well, so I can actually ask him about his experience as well, which would be quite cool.
Yeah.
But I think your point that you mentioned earlier is probably as valid as any other, if not more so, is just make it so that there's no excuses if you get on stage.
That's it.
And you get all them prejudices out the window if you just blow everybody else out the water. And your physique is a testament to that. Do you know what I mean? Like the show pictures that you've got. Obviously, your Instagram and stuff will be in the link for this podcast. Anybody is listening that can go on there and check it out. It's scary good. Do you know what I mean? Like relative to the average human, which is myself. You know what I mean? I dabble in fitness, but I'd like to say that I'm a bit consistent. But to that level, it is next level. I'm sure that, having spoken to other people previously, you probably feel like there was improvements that you can make, but for the relative human, like, it is very good.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah.
As you've now judged, you haven't competed after you've judged. Will that make any difference in how you assess your own body going forward, because you're looking at it from a different angle, or did you have understanding beforehand?
No, I think I know my areas that I need to improve on, and some of my weaknesses. And I think with bodybuilding, it's two things, isn't it? You either have you've got a weakness you need to improve on, or you can always, the way in which you do your posing and the way in which you present yourself, you can show things slightly differently, or how you pose a certain movement or body part. So I know what areas I need to improve on and work on. So that's just something that's ongoing, isn't it? And I haven't got any shows in mind at the minute, and it's been a while since I've competed as well. So bit rusty there, but yeah, let's see. Just like COVID hit. I was planning to compete the year that COVID hit, to be honest. But obviously all the gym shut and everything closed down. So that was pretty tough. And then other family things going on, got married, all that sort of stuff happening. So it's just been really busy. But yeah, I think maybe I do want to say I want at least one more season before I decide, maybe this is enough. So let's see when that'll be.
Again, congratulations for the wedding, and hopefully you're enjoying a married life. And that was a question I was going to ask, is how much longer do you want to do it? Because essentially, like, it does take a toll on your body. Is life after bodybuilding something that you've considered? Like, the best example for me is probably Dorian Yates, because as soon as he finished, done, and then started getting rid of his insane like muscle mass and sort of tapering down and things to live like a functional life beyond bodybuilding. Is that something you've considered, or is it something that you'll probably consider after you make that decision?
I think I'll always train no matter what, whether I compete or don't. Like, even now, I'm not actively looking to compete anytime soon, but I'm still training. I still go to the gym. I still stick to a relatively clean eating plan. I don't think you can ever change that from people, especially when you've been doing it as long as I have.
100%.
So then, yeah, I mean, whenever I decide to compete again, it will be, and then after that, if I decide not to, then I won't. If I want to do more, maybe I'll get the bug again and keep going.
Yeah.
I think the main thing that you should do is just make sure you stay healthy with it, because as much as bodybuilding might be, visually you might look incredible, how healthy of a sport really is it? With everything going on, like, you see all these bodybuilders with health conditions and whatnot. So yeah, I think health is definitely something I'm more conscious of now, especially as I'm getting older. So I think that's the most important thing for me, I think. And then after, like I said, I'll always train. I'll always eat well as best I can, and and there's no reason why you can't. I train with guys in the gym that are in their 50s, and they're strong as anything, and they push some crazy weights and all sorts. There's no reason why you can't keep it up even afterwards.
100%. it is just that like sort of wear and tear on your joints and things that I'm thinking of mainly. If you're holding that much mass relative like to your size,
Yeah,
then I think when people do stop competing, they sort of, they obviously stay active. You can't not do something that you've
yeah,
done for basically all of your life. But I think most people try to get a bit more leaner. Like obviously your muscle mass will probably decrease as a result of that.
yeah, yeah.
Alternatively, you might have like a Ronnie Coleman situation where you just keep on going ham until until the wheels fall off. um,
It's,
something you
it's just
mentioned. Mhm.
it's just like you got to make sure you're looking after yourself, basically, especially
Yeah.
as we're getting older. And that doesn't mean like just what you eat, and it's training sensible as well.
Mhm.
Like there might have been a point in time where I would get to the gym and like warm up on something quite heavy and then just go straight in. Whereas now I get there, like for example, if I'm training legs now, before I used to go in quick 5 minutes, couple of warm up sets, right? What we're doing, let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, now I'm like, get to the gym half an hour before, stretch, get a good few warm up sets, and pretty much the first handful of machines, and I'm going light, getting warm, putting the weight up gradually, taking my time. Even things like the exercise selection that you do, you got to be a bit more mindful of, like now, if something's hurting or if I'm not feeling right, I just won't train. Whereas before, back in rewind 5-6 years, it doesn't matter how I feel, I could feel like absolute death. I'm not missing a session. And I think that's the difference, isn't it? As you mature, as you get a bit older, you realise that and how important your health is. So yeah, like getting blood work done is important. Eating right, eating good, physio work. I go to physio sessions. I do my own rehab physio work myself. I think looking after yourself long term is definitely something that we kind of neglect. And you look at our like older generations, like our parents' generation stuff. A lot of them have multiple health conditions. They've got high blood pressure, diabetes, all that. And why? Because they never look after themselves. They work themselves into the ground. They don't keep an eye on things, not take time out for themselves and look after them. And they suffer long term as a consequence. So I think definitely longer term is going to be more on the health side of things rather than trying to, don't get me wrong, nothing will stop me from squatting and deadlifting,
Yeah, yeah.
But you just got to do it in a sensible way.
100%. You still need that outlet, but as you said, like that crack on mentality that obviously the elders had and that we have, is and just get your head down and sort of just do some hard work essentially. Is obviously has a lot of benefits, but then some of the negatives are that is that you don't realize the health impact that you have until afterwards. Fortunately, we're from the generation now where you have all this medical sort of assistance basically your fingertips. Do you know what I mean? Like you can get blood works done, you can get like essentially like an MOT done on your body quite consistently, and there's resources and things to be able to recover and look after your health. And research wise as well, obviously different things are coming out all the time of this thing is good for you compared to what previously was not, or vice versa, which sometimes it can be hard. I imagine obviously the more that you're into it, the more that you're able to discern what's credible and not credible information in that respect, because some of it is biasly driven studies.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you got to be careful with what you read out there and what you take in. I would always say, like, just take advice from someone that you trust. Even when competing as well, like you see people competing and getting advice from, like, they might have a coach or they might have a best friend, or then they got someone else in the gym that's competed asking them for their advice. And it's like you're asking 4 or 5 different people what to do, and you're just going around in circles. Just stick to one person that you trust and don't listen to anyone else, is what I'd say.
Exactly.
And that's from a coaching or competing point of view. And in terms of like health and stuff, just make sure you speak to someone that you know what they're doing. Like, I don't know, say you got to set a blood test, it's fine having your blood test, but what does it mean? Find someone that can read it for you.
Yeah.
things like that, you know. So just make sure that you're getting advice from credible people, really.
100%. If you can't read the data, it's pointless doing it.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly.
For
And then
recovery,
it's not even data, because a lot of blood tests are just gonna, all the markers that are on there are pretty much for Mr. Average, aren't they?
Mhm.
Right. And if you're out, or if you're high or low on a certain marker, then that's deemed to be bad. But you've got to, I think it's having someone to read, like sticking to the blood test example, having someone to read your blood test for your lifestyle and you. But I know, maybe because of the amount of food that I eat, maybe how hard I've trained the day before, some of my markers on the blood test might be out, but there might be genuine reason for that. And it's just, you know, it's knowing who to go to, and how to read it and interpret it. And I know we're talking about bloods here, but that could be anything, can't it? That could be, if you've got, you know, there's a difference. I was talking to a friend about it in the gym, actually, and there's a difference between not being bothered in the gym, or can't be asked, and being tired and lack of motivation. You know, you can be tired, you can still get your session done, or you can genuinely be like, I need to rest my knee, it's really hurting. I shouldn't put any weight on it. It's dangerous, you know, if I go too heavy on it, compared to, I'm tired today, I don't want to train. You know? One should train, one shouldn't.
Yeah,
it's not the difference.
It's context, essentially, isn't it? It's but I think that only occurs after knowing your body, and the only way you can know your body is if you're fully dialed in, and if you're training that consistently, you'll be able to feel the little niggles a bit more, and dial into like yourself, understanding your body. Like, I think the best example, maybe a bit more of an easy example for the layman to understand, would be BMI. I presume if you if you did a BMI index thing, you'd probably come up as obese.
Yeah, I did. I remember, actually, like, it was many years ago. I don't even know what show I was competing for, but I was prepping for a show, and I must have not been far out. Not 4-6 weeks. I was lean enough to be able to tell I was entering the show, put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to the doctors for something. I suffer from a bit of eczema, so I might have been for that. And I remember speaking to the nurse, and she got me on the scales, and she she looked at my scales, and she's like, "Have you considered going on a diet? This is quite heavy for your weight, for your height, sorry." And I looked at her, and, like, being polite about it, she wasn't the slimmest of nurses herself.
Okay.
Like, you know, and she, like, didn't look at me. She just looked at my weight and looked at the chart, and, you know, put my round peg in a square hole kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just tarnished me with the same brush, when everyone's different, you know. So yeah, BMI doesn't mean anything, in my opinion, in that sense, for an athlete anyway, for like a bodybuilder or something like that. Again, for the average person, it might be a good indication of where they're at.
Yeah,
but it doesn't work for everyone,
because it doesn't account for muscle mass. So like that's the thing with it, is I think that's why it's the best example, because anyone who not even like is insanely strong or anything, but if you go into the gym a bit consistently and you've got relative strength, you're always going to be off on that indicator. And some people get carried away with that, and they could actually be obese, and could have a little muscle mass, and be like, oh no, it's fine, the muscle's carrying it. Talking from experience here, because I was a bit fat when I was training as well. But obviously it is one that like the average person can sort of relate to, because it is the one that like most doctors and things use. When you're talking about recovery and things, and you mentioned it before a bit earlier in the conversation of the remaining 23 to 22 hours in the day, how much sleep do you get? What other things, as you mentioned, rehab and recovery, and what other elements do you do to ensure that you can recover and make sure that training that you do for 60, 90, 120 minutes actually is effective?
Yeah. So I think sleep's always going to be an interesting one, a good one, isn't it? The more sleep you get, ideally, if you got 8 hours sleep, you'll be spot on. But in this day and age, I certainly don't get 8 hours sleep a night. I'll be lucky to, if that. And I think that's probably the case for most people. Given like such hectic work life or studying schedules, and then just general family life being busy, food prep and all the rest of it. It's hard to get 8 hours sleep unless your career or schedule suits it. But I think getting as much sleep as you can, good quality sleep is definitely important. Other recovery things, like when I'm competing for a show, I would normally get physio at least either once a week or once every 2 weeks. I'll have an hour's deep tissue physio work. Certainly closer to the show as well, probably more like once a week. But generally it'd be at least twice a month. I normally get that done. Now that I'm not competing, I'd maybe try and go maybe once a month if I can. Again, just fitting it in. But I think it's always important, and these sort of things are what people generally slack on.
Mm-hmm.
They'd rather, I don't know, have the latest gear or have the latest, squat shoes or belt. But like, really, just work on yourself. Like in terms of, like, I'm guilty of it. I should do more stretching myself at home. I should do more, physio work at home myself. Even getting those little physio balls, the different coloured ones, different hardness on them. Great, a little physio massage gun, you get a cheap one for 35-40 pounds at Amazon. They're great, they'll really help. Just find the time to sit and use them on yourself, because the last thing you do want to do when you've had a long day at work, you've gone to the gym, you've trained hard, you've come home, you just want to eat and go to bed.
Yeah.
You don't want to do anything else. But it's really important, and I definitely urge everyone to make more of an effort on things like that. Your nutrition as well, your food you eat is really key. Even just having a good multivitamin and fish oils and maybe some joint support will go a long way if you're consistent with it. There's little things like that all add up and make a big difference longer term. So definitely, like, make sure your supplementation is good with a good multivitamin, vitamin D, fish oils, joint supplements, and whatever else you think is needed. Good food, good quality food, don't buy anything processed or cheap. Make sure you get good quality. If you eat meat, good quality meats and veg and everything else. Get your rehab work in, get your physio sessions in. It might seem like it's expensive, but it will help. Definitely will help longer term, and do as much of it yourself as you can as well. I think if you stay on top of things like that, you'll have a much easier and better training session.
100%. I think if one thing has came out of COVID as a positive is the emphasis on things like vitamins and supplementation and whole foods, depending on. I know that everybody who has obviously seen media relating COVID probably seen different things. So the information that I got from it was more of vitamins and supplementation, and obviously the importance of whole foods, especially things like vitamin D for people of darker skin tones like ourselves, and the ridiculous importance of that. And I think the best example that somebody said to me, I can't remember if it was on the podcast or off it, but is that if you have a car, you'd go do your MOT every year, but you don't do your own MOT every year or every 6 months. Do you know what I mean? You need to have a service once in a while, and you're willing to pay for it for your car, but you're not willing to pay for it for yourself, which is a nice way to look at it. I thought that was a good comparison. Just wrapping up sort of thing, because conscious of time now. A quick sort of few little topics that I'd want a bit of input on is one of the previous competitors I had on was Jada Malani. She's an Iranian British woman, and she competes in IFBB bikini competitions. Her outlook on the split of posing, training, nutrition was, I believe, in that order. And no, I think it was actually posing, nutrition, training, of order of importance. Her outlook was posing was the most important, far more than training and nutrition. If you were to rank them three in importance for yourself, how would you rank each three?
Training has to be number one, in my opinion. Certainly for bodybuilding point of view, right? Definitely training. I think don't want to take away from posing, but training, nutrition is obviously, the thing is, you can't get to posing without having your training and nutrition on point, right? You're not going to get that far, because if your training's crap and your nutrition isn't good, then chances are you probably don't look very great and shouldn't be stepping on stage. So I think certainly for like and I'm talking about men's bodybuilding here, right? Training has to be like, when I've judged shows in the past, I can clearly tell from the guys on stage which ones put the work in the gym, which ones have been squatting, which ones have been doing the heavy leg pressing, which ones have been like smashing deadlifts, and which ones haven't. And it's very evident, you know. So I think training and nutrition is definitely top two, and then posing would be the third. But a lot of people fall over when it comes to posing. They'll train all year round for however many years. They'll put all the right food and put all the right nutrition in, and they get to this and they diet down and they look great, and they get to the day of the show and they don't know how to pose, and they'll just, you know, like tumble in places when if they knew how to pose and show. It's one thing having a physique, it's another thing showing it. And I think posing is so important. Like I remember, like 3 weeks prior to a show, probably I would do at least 15-20 minutes in the morning and in the evening every day religiously, no matter what. And then closer to the show, that will increase, and then that's, you know, that's not in addition to all the posing I'll do with my coach at the gym as well.
Yeah,
it's so overlooked, so overlooked.
Yeah,
definitely really important to kind of hammer that pose and get it in.
Yeah, I think that was her outlook on it, is that if you have the physique but aren't able to show it, then what is the point in having the physique? So like, because obviously the day of competition is probably when you're the most drained and the most like sort of depleted. So if you aren't able to show off the parts that you are most proud of, essentially, like you were saying before, was either working on your negatives or showing off your positives, then it obviously is to your detriment. Which it's an interesting one, because I never sort of had the juggling of the three before that conversation that I had with her, and then it was something that is sort of intrigued me since. Second one, a lot easier. What's your post competition cheat meal, sort of after all the prep's done? What do you go to?
To be honest, anything, like, just, I don't have a certain preference in terms of go-to food. I've had all sorts after shows. Like some shows I've been after, I've had like a massive burger and chips and cake and stuff. I remember one show I did, I went to this restaurant, I just had a soup and I went home.
That's underwhelming.
You know, so like, it doesn't happen very often, trust me. It's normally like a burger or chips or something like that.
It must be hard as well, though, because obviously your stomach's probably shrinked, so you want to eat everything but you just can't, and you'd have to like deload and sort of reverse diet out of it. But
that's it. If you got a photo shoot after, you got to be mindful and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then one that I have asked a lot of the fitnessy sort of people, the bodybuilders mainly, is how many times have you watched Pump and Eyeing?
I think twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, only twice. Yeah.
I thought it would have been a lot higher.
I mean, during prep, I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, like, you know, motivational videos or training videos. I remember, like, where my gym, because the gym I train at Ultimate Fitness now, it's moved over the last couple of years to a much bigger premises. But where it was before, in front of the Stairmaster, there was TVs there, and obviously I'd put on whatever I want whilst doing my cardio. And for some reason, that season I would always watch food programs, like, you know, Man v Food or something like that, like stuff that I simply could not eat. And people think, you know, why are you torturing yourself for? But I actually quite enjoyed watching them. I don't know, weird, but yeah.
Getting pleasure out of other people's pleasure with food. Do you know what I mean? I was going to say the same thing. It does seem like torture if you're depleting your calories and reducing them and watching that on the TV.
Yeah,
drive me insane. And we'll finish off with the quick fire questions. I ask each guest same 5 questions at the end of each podcast, just a nice way to round it up. So the first one of these is, what are you most proud of?
Yeah, well, there's loads of things, I suppose. What am I most proud of? It'd be difficult to pick just one, I think. Has everyone picked one thing? Just
No, you can say whatever comes to mind. Whatever comes to mind.
I think my family, first of all, the things that we've all achieved and everything that my family have done for themselves and for me, one thing. Proud of, obviously, how far I've taken my bodybuilding journey so far. Training at a local council gym to winning pro show is something I'm definitely proud of. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. There's loads of other things I can probably think of, but I won't. So
No,
try to think of more.
a good couple. What are you most looking forward to?
Looking forward to the future, I suppose. Anything, you got to look forward to stuff, right? But in the future. So just what lies ahead, I suppose. I'll certainly take all the things I've done in the past, work ethic, everything else, and take that forward with me. So I do have a few things in the line in terms of business opportunities and other things I'm working on. So got a few things that I've got in the pipeline that I want to work on. Like I said before, so I do want to at least compete one more time again. When that will be, I'm not too sure, but that's something definitely I'll look forward to as well.
What's your biggest motivation?
Biggest motivation? It's gonna sound really corny now and like a typical answer, but like just seeing how far like my parents have come. Being, but like we're first generation here, aren't we? Them guys are the ones that moved from India to England and came with nothing. They literally, they've come here, had nothing, and to build the businesses that they've done and to achieve the things that they've done in their lifetime is you think about doing that now and it just seems like a massive feat, doesn't it? Like, could you go to a country where you hardly spoke the language? No, like, could I go to China and get a job out there, build a business, and set myself up for the future in that country? Is really tough. So for them to do that, to come here is amazing, isn't it? That's something you should definitely look up to and strive towards. And just the amount of work they've put in and effort and things they've taught me going forward as well. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
100%. What is your definition of success?
I think this question definitely depends on how old you are. If you ask like a 17, 18-year-old, it's going to be having a fancy car or whatever. But now I think it's just being comfortable, content, and being happy in life. Just knowing that you've don't think you can never have life without stress, can you? But having minimal stress as you can, being comfortable, not only in life but within yourself as well. I think that's quite important. We all work hard to strive towards things, and we all try to look after our bodies and look big and ripped as we can. But I think a mental side of things as well, like there's a mental side that you need to look after as well. It's just important as what's on the outside.
100%. That's the beauty of that question, is everyone has a different answer, as everyone values success differently, which is amazing. Yeah. And last but not least, because it's the KultureKast podcast, how has your culture affected you in your journey thus far?
How's culture affected me in this journey so far? I think we've touched on bits of this, haven't we, throughout the podcast, like coming from our cultural background, the having like the values that our culture teaches us, like you've said before, you've got to work hard, you've got to put the effort in, and everything you've got to do. Like, I think we're very money driven to a certain point. Like, I remember my dad saying to me, "Why you can like when I was in my amateur days anyway, like, what are you competing for? Are you getting paid for it?" That's something I enjoy doing. You're not getting paid for it, don't bother. And it was, it's but I think our culture has definitely given us a good base of work ethic. And it's the values it teaches us. I mean, we've got different ethnic backgrounds as well. Like, Sikh, but that's teached us from the ethics and values that, be good to people and all, everything else that it has in there, to what our parents have instilled in us from a cultural background. I think, like you said at the very beginning, hard work is instilled inside of us. It's tapping into that and utilizing it the best you can, and then adding as much as you can on top of that as well, to really push and get there. I think one thing I've definitely learned is not only from my own experiences, but from just generally people that I know, people that I've surrounded myself with, and seen some people. There's achievements that are great, and people that have really gone far in life, but they've not had anything more special than any one of us. There's nothing that someone can do better or more than you can. And I think it's having that belief in yourself to do that. So, and I think if you use all of the positive points from our culture, all that hard work, all the being good to people, being kind, and everything else, you can definitely achieve some amazing things.
100%, couldn't agree more. I really like that answer, because it touches on quite a few things. Is the reason I always say culture is because the religion and the culture are different, as we know, and there are a lot of benefits of the culture, but when you speak about the negatives, often the benefits are sort of disregarded, and when you speak about the benefits, often the negatives are disregarded. But like you said, if you take the benefits and disregard the negatives, and sort of like take what you can use and just leave what you disagree with, essentially, then it's the best sort of recipe. And I completely agree with, obviously, the way that we are brought up and sort of culturally come from. There are a lot of benefits, and sometimes you get drowned in the negatives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
at the end of the day, if you can change something, then change it. If something affects you that you can't change, then it's easier said than done, but you shouldn't let it get to you so much, would you?
Yeah.
So take what you can use, and just keep going, and just keep working at whatever it is you're passionate about, whether it's training, whether it's career, bodybuilding, whatever. I think with that hard work, you can achieve pretty much whatever you want.
100%. And again, I really thank you for your time today, because busy schedules and whatnot. So I appreciate you coming out like a couple of hours.
Planning it, haven't we?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, because a couple of hours, and honestly, it's been a real pleasure. Really fascinating, to be honest, to get insight. Obviously, you see the pictures and you see the videos and things online, and you're just like, oh, I want to be able to pick your brains, and you've given me ample opportunity to do so. So I appreciate it greatly. Your links and things will be in the description below. So if you're watching on YouTube, listen, Spotify, Apple, Ghana now, all the platforms, just head over to Randeep's Instagram. Obviously, you'll be able to check out some of the poses and some of the competitions that we've talked about throughout this podcast. So again, thank you very much, Randeep.
Okay, thank you, mate. Nice one.